The Monkey Tools SmartFolder Monkey is a pro feature which really builds the from folder connector the way that I believe it should have been built from day one. What you'll find is that the SmartFolder Monkey gives you a single entry point into a from folder solution that works with local folders, SharePoint folders, dynamic paths, fixes backslashing versus forward slashing errors, deals with really complicated SharePoint paths so you don't have to carve them up and put them back together, and makes it really, really easy generally to just get to the right place to do the job you need. Not only that, it also switches really easily between the folder.file structure and folder.contents that allows you to build solutions that run faster because you're drilling specifically into a targeted folder versus grabbing every file on the system. Now it does use the FN SmartFolder function that I've demonstrated in other videos, so I'm going to replicate the exact same setup I used there just to show how this is actually a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blank workbook that I have and I'm going to save it over my SmartFolder file to make sure that I'm starting with a completely blank file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my query monkeys and I'm going to go directly to the SmartFolder monkey. The SmartFolder monkey will inject the FN get parameter function if needed, as well as the table if needed, and pops up this little dialog that says, what would you like to call your new query? I'm going to call this one files. It asks which variable holds the folder path. In this case, it is cdemos, so we're all good there. And I can just say, okay, and it will create a connection-only version of my files list query. I'm going to edit this because I actually do want to make some changes here to make it consistent with what I did in my FN SmartFolder function video. And what we can see here is that just like in that video, I have a list of all my files, including a temp file for this one here. I have both XLSX and CSV files here. The interesting part is that while I would normally want to keep my content column to combine it, I'm actually going to remove some of this stuff. I'm just going to grab 2 columns of data here. I want my name and my folder path, and I'm going to filter my folder path down to just my CSVs. And there we go. This is what I want for my listing of files. Again, if I were doing this for real, I would keep the binaries and probably combine them in another query. But for right now, let me just hit close and load. I'm going to load this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the load destination for this. And we're going to drop this onto a table. So we'll put that on a table on an existing worksheet. I'll drop it on C1 right here in B4. And then I'm going to go and mark this down as files and just increase that font size a little bit. There we are. And that's the first example of how we would use something to connect to a SmartFolder that picks up all files in all subfolders and filter them down. I'm now going to show you the alternate way that this works to generate a .contents listing. So we're going to do this again with the SmartFolder monkey. And here we go. Monkey tools, query monkeys, SmartFolder monkey. Now the parameter table in query already exists, so it just pops this open and says, what do you want to call this? And I'm going to call this contents. And here's the big difference between last time and this time. I'm going to uncheck show files in subfolders. And when I click OK, what you'll see when we open up this query is that the listing looks a little bit different. We don't see, well, we still see our temp folder here, but what we don't see, we've got XLSX files, we don't have any CSVs. But we do have something with no extension. CSVs up here is a table. This is actually a folder of files. So it actually attaches to the stuff differently here. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm now going to drill down into this table by just clicking on the green table word there. And boom, there we are. We're now looking at just the files in that folder, which include our CSVs. So let me do a little bit of choose column work again. So we'll grab that. So we'll go and grab just our name and our folder path, again, just to be consistent. And now what we can see is that our folder path actually has some extra wording in it that I don't want. I really don't need the cdemos, particularly if it's a long file path. Well, it just happens that this text string, when we set up this structure here, we actually give you a step called folder that has the FN get parameter invocation that leads to what that original folder is. So I can actually refer to this to replace it and get rid of it here. And here's how. We'll go right click, replace values. I'm going to type in folder, in the value defined, replace it with nothing, and you can see nothing happened. And that's because it's actually wrapped this in quotes. So I just need to get rid of the quotes. Unfortunately, there's no way through the user interface to just get rid of that. So we'll remove the quote so that it's pointing to the step name, the value from it, and now, boom, we're down to just CSVs, and that's exactly what I want to see. So I'm gonna go and say, all right, cool, let's close and load. We're gonna let this one go and write itself back into Power Query here. Once it's all set and done here, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load this to a table as well, and we'll drop this on the same worksheet. And it should have the exact same contents, it's just a different method for getting there. Now the big question is though, this is all targeted at files on my C drive. What happens when I zip this up and send it to a client and they extract the folder into a drive that syncs to SharePoint? So let's find out. I'm gonna save this to SharePoint right now, and then we'll take a look at whether or not it refreshes. All right, we can see that we are back in this workbook. I have saved it in SharePoint and reopened it, and what you can see here is that we have a very long URL to where our files are located now. Now, if you're working with a regular from SharePoint folder solution, you're gonna need to connect to everything to the left of this backslash that I'm just above here from Monkey Tools add-in and forward on that. That's the root. Then you gotta start filtering and drilling down. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just pass the whole path like this? So let's go take a look and see what happens now. We have our data here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run a refresh on this. Now it will prompt me in order to go and put my privacy levels on here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do with this one here is I'm gonna go and declare these as organizational, and I'm gonna say save. And what we should see at this point is that it will then go and start refreshing our data from SharePoint, which is pretty awesome. And if everything works correctly, we should get 3 CSV files from each folder, because on my SharePoint site, there's actually 3, whereas on my local hard drive, there is only 2. So there you go. As long as your credentials have been filled in, if not, they'll prompt you for those anyway. But at this point in time, we've now used the SmartFolder Monkey to build 2 different versions of a query that refresh on 2 different connectors each, absolutely seamlessly. You don't have to worry about anything, and the performance should still be as good as it can be because it does leverage the fastest connectors that we can get our hands on for Power Query. So there you go. That is the SmartFolder Monkey in Monkey Tools. Thanks for watching this episode of Using Monkey Tools. To get your own monkey, visit our website at monkeytools.ca. Or if you subscribe to Skillwave's Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy, you'll get a free annual pro license included with your subscription. And remember, Monkey Tools was developed to support better Excel and Power BI solutions. If you want to learn how to really master these tools, you should definitely check out our full course catalog at skillwave.training.